Right, so members of parliament as well as the public waited and seated for 2 hours to listen to the 2015 budget. We have been analyzing this budget that was presented today and bringing you the detail. Now, Ghana is set to set up an Exim Bank to cater for industries that deal with exports. Now, this was announced by Finance Minister Seth Terkper while he was presenting the budget statement today on the floor of Parliament.
Reading the budget, the finance minister first concentrated on the ailing cedi. He indicated the drop in Ghana's major export earnings from gold and cocoa were the major shocks. The Minister of Finance indicated that 1.7 billion cedi cocoa board agreement and the Eurobond of $1 billion saved the situation. But looking forward, the minister bemoaned the need to diversify exports. Government has therefore proposed an export and import bank to promote exports. 50% of the seed money will come from the EDIVE fund.
Cabinet has approved the creation of a Ghana Export and Exim Bank to lead in the strategic positioning of Ghana as an export-led economy. Cabinet has therefore approved the allocation of 50% of the EDIVE fund to set up the Ghana Exim Bank.
Speaking to Deputy Minister of Finance on how the fund would be operationalized, she said it was a long-term project that may not start now.
The Exim Bank is not to rival the EDF concept. With the Exim Bank, there won't be an intermediary. It will be a bank where exporters can go straight to the bank, have their credit analysis done there based on the export. The Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Trade and Industry will form a task force and will get together to flesh out how it will actually work. So right now it's only a concept.
But some industry players have called the bank a process of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Hiving of EDIF, if EDIF has 10 and you hive off 5% of an Exim Bank, really you are standing where you are. We should stop using hard-earned currency to support our currency, allow it to get to the right level, and that in itself will correct our behavior. I'm expecting to hear more what is going to be done to ensure that we can produce, because unless you have the right incentive structure, people will not produce and they'll still continue to buy from overseas. All those businesses that are based on imports will have to collapse and new ones based on exports will come up. And it's a pain we have to go through. We don't have a choice.
The cedi's performance is largely linked to exports. In 9 months, the cedi has depreciated against the dollar by 31.2%. Currently stabilizing against the major currencies, the continuous decline in oil prices may create a further decline in the cedi if short-term solutions are not provided.
Why, so looking at the 2015 outlook, the Export and Imports Bank is one from government. Now let's look at what really our debt to GDP ratio looked like for 2014 and what measures government decided to put in place in the 2015 budget. Well, Finance Minister confirmed Ghana's debt to GDP ratio has crossed the critical 60% mark. Now, in managing the debt stock, government intends to operationalize a sinking fund to manage debt instruments in 2015. The transformational agenda, securing the bright medium-term prospects of the economy, the 2015 budget covered an overview of the macroeconomic performance for 2014. Finance Minister Seth Terkper touched on the specific macroeconomic targets for 2015.
Look at the specific macro targets for 2015 and non-oil real GDP growth of 2.7%, overall real GDP growth of 3.9%, and end-year inflation growth of 11.5%, overall budget deficit equivalent to 6.5% of GDP, and gross international reserve with the equivalent of 3 months import cover.
The country's debt stock currently stands at 60.8% of total gross domestic product. In the 2015 budget, government intends to utilize the approved stabilization fund to service debt.
Propose that the cap to the stabilization fund should be in percentage or proportions to which would ensure the concurrent growth of the fund itself, contingency provisions as well as reference. Mr. Speaker, government will also continue to pursue its own lending and escrow policy.
On education, 15 new senior high schools are also at various stages of completion. Government says it has secured funding for 123 out of the 200 senior high schools, with the free SHS progressively on course. The 2015 budget seeks to further expand health facilities and complete over 100 CHIPS compounds. VAT on locally produced pharmaceuticals will also be removed.
The exemption policy will be based on the VAT of selected list of special essential medicine not manufactured in Ghana and approved by the Minister of Health. The Speaker, government would also remove import duty and VAT on inputs for the production of matches or cutlasses, and also the production of exercise books and textbooks.
Measures are expected to be put in place to boost Ghana's foreign exchange resources to maintain the exchange rate stability. Now let's focus on the sector that caused the minority to walk out from the floor of Parliament. And I'm sure most of you have so much interest in this particular sector. I'm talking about the energy sector. And Finance Minister said tax on petroleum products will be increased by 17.5%. Meanwhile, about 770 megawatts of power from thermal sources is also expected to be added to the national grid by the end of 2015. The recent $700 million loan to be acquired by the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation is expected to support investment needs. The minister added GNPC would finance $493 million out of the loan acquired. About 500 million tons of LPG is expected to be produced when the Atuabo gas is operational.
The projected decline in oil prices would also impact negatively on the fiscal situation, although the lower prices, as we noted, could also have a dampening effect on our petroleum prices. However, the prospects are that the developments in gas can neutralize some of these adverse crude oil effects.
Taxes on petroleum products are expected to be increased from 15% to 17.5%. An addition of about 770 megawatts of power is also expected to be added to the national grid.
Over the next few weeks, the full commissioning of the gas processing facilities using the base stock gas will allow for the production a full supply of 150 million standard cubic feet of main gas per day to the Volta River Authority at its Abuazi thermal power energy unit. This milestone of bringing gas on stream will provide better power generation flexibility for the country.
Additionally, the Electricity Company of Ghana would upgrade about 11 new primary substations to reduce losses and improve operational reliability. And I'm sure most analysts will jump to this particular sector to really analyze the content of the 2015 budget. We'll be looking at that later on our subsequent bulletins. But also the budget touched on infrastructural development, where government intends to improve that particular side. Well, Finance Minister Setegwe told Parliament water rehabilitation project, road infrastructure and educational infrastructural project will remain top on government agenda.
Government intends to initiate action on some water expansion projects across the length and breadth of the country, while carrying out a massive road infrastructural development to connect the rural communities to urban centers.
Expansion of the pond water pumping station, the Kwame Nkrumah interchange properly called Circle Line, the Tetequashi to Medina Road project.
Questioned if government negotiations with the IMF could cut down infrastructural growth, Deputy Finance Minister Mona Kote said government has had extensive deliberations with the IMF officials on areas to expand the infrastructure.
We already had a homegrown policy which the IMF had agreed upon, had looked at it and said it was a good policy, very similar to what they would ask us to do, which we are doing ourselves. So even before they come up with their possible program, we are already taking those steps that we should take.
Dr. Kaminta Baizi, Executive Chairman, State Enterprise Commission, said money from the Ghana Infrastructural Fund should be monitored.
Most of our SOEs, the infrastructure is actually crumbling. Ghana Trade Fair is a typical example. So yes, this is a direction where, call it financial re-engineering, where the SOEs are going to take responsibility of their own financing, raising the money on their own books to be able to revive and rebuild this infrastructure to ensure that we are able to get the right sort of basis for the economy to take off.
Well, so I'm sure the mixed reaction continued, but we had the energy minister and petroleum also justifying the proposed tax increase of petroleum products to 17.5%, and we will soon be hearing from. But we also had some members of parliament say the proposed increment would make life unbearable for Ghanaians. Let's look at that, please.
The biggest problem confronting Ghanaians today, industry, households, is the energy crisis. And we're looking to see clear strategies that would demonstrate that in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, that this dumso will stop. There's going to be a 17.5% taxation on petroleum. What that would do is that it would raise petroleum prices. That would affect general prices. The cost of living would go up.
Some of the plants are not operating as expected, and I'm afraid if we are not careful, there will be times that the whole country will go completely blank and dark.
But the Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Emmanuel Kofi-Boah, explained the target on the energy sector allocated in the budget will address the power crisis in the long term.
Appeal to the people of Ghana, apologize for the real pain of being in the dark. It doesn't take 1 week to give you 100 megawatts, and that is why it is very painful. Yes, we have crisis because we have a shortfall in supply, but the people you've given the charge to understand the pain you're going through, and we are working overtime to try to resolve it.
He justifies the new proposed petroleum tax levy.
Just postpone the problems, or do we fix it now? We have to work so hard that we who have the responsibility today are making the right decisions, and that we are not postponing decisions.